Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And let's go ahead and get started. You guys went to a concert this past week.
Yeah, we went to the concert for Valor on the National Mall, and it was really cool. We got to see a bunch of cool bands, listen to some really interesting stories from veterans, and got to show our support for the veterans that have helped out with the various branches of the military who don't necessarily get the kind of support that they kind of should when they get back home.
Veterans Affairs just got a new head of the department. But,
Yeah.
But, Jake, I know you're a big Springsteen fan. This is the first time you saw Springsteen.
It was the second time.
I stand completely corrected.
But first of all, Chris and I left fairly early to get to the Metro.
What time did you guys...
Not fairly early,
Well,
but early for when the concert was. The concert was at 7. We were headed towards there at like noon.
Yeah.
And we get on the Metro. It's not that busy. We get to DC. Everything's cool. We're waiting to meet your friend, Ken.
Yeah.
And we're walking in, and all of a sudden I hear, nope. You can't do that. And I'm looking around like, it's a free concert. I don't, what do you mean? And then we're not allowed to have lawn chairs.
Yeah, I had brought some folding like beach chairs in with us because I was like, I'm going to be sitting for like 5 hours.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, Chris, we got to figure out something to do. Chris was like, all right, well, let's see. We kind of sat around. We met with Ken, and we're like, well, we got to kind of figure out either we go to like a hotel and see if we can put him in one of the lockers, or we have like the locker with the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of walk around for a bit. We go to the hotel. Of course, they're not going to let us because, one, they're right by the White House. They think we're freaking weirdos. And two, we're not staying there, rightfully so. But we figured we'd no harm in trying.
Yeah.
And then we go to the Smithsonian. It takes like a good 5 minutes to get in because the lady's like not thoroughly checking the bag, but just kind of falling asleep while she's checking the bag.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And Chris is like, look, I'm going to leave my bags. I'm just going to...
I was like, I don't even need my bag. I'll leave my bag with my friends. They're standing right there. They're not even going to come in. Who cares what's in my bag?
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit.
And so we get in, and it's like we get to where you drop off normally the bags with the lockers, and it's like closed for the day.
Yeah.
And Chris just goes, fuck it. And he just walks out and javelins his chairs into the trash can.
Yeah, I was like, these things are only like $30. I don't need to deal with this shit
so
right now.
He he's got longer legs than me. And so he's like striding, and he's like, fuck it. And he like throws the chair in the trash. And I'm like running behind, like, and like kind of like throw mine in there real quick to catch up. But whatever. That helped. That was like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And we finally get in and sit down, and we wait. And the waiting part sucks, obviously. We play cards and, excuse me, kind of look around. And then we're waiting for our buddy Luke, who's going to meet us there. And he had to fight his way in because they had like closed off certain sections.
They had sectioned it off. Like right in front of the stage for like a block or two was like VIP section, so like veterans and people that have like connections with the bands and stuff like that. That's fine. I'm used to that kind of stuff. But then like they had sectioned off. We were in like what I referred to as second class, which was the section right behind VIP. And like that had already started kind of filling up by the time we got there. So we were about halfway deep into second class. And then behind that, they had sectioned off, third class, which was basically the rest of the mall. Our second class took up like maybe like 2 or 3 blocks. And the way that they sectioned it off really was kind of shitty because like after a certain hour, like they weren't even measuring population. They just, after a certain time, they blocked it off and said no more people in second class, which really sucks because there was still plenty of room.
Yeah.
The tons of people could have still gotten in. Like me being not a huge fan of large crowds was kind of grateful, but at the same time, like our friend Luke came too late and had to like he's really struggled to convince them to let him through the gate, even though there was enough room for several hundred more people.
I mean, Capitol Police don't fuck around.
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully so with the stuff. But
I'm not saying.
And But enough about whining about all that shit. Let's get to showtime and so 7 o'clock.
It was really cool. If you remember, we got there early enough to listen to the Black Keys.
Yeah, the Black Keys did sound check.
Their last minute sound check.
And so 7 o'clock rolls around, and they got the producer getting ready to get everyone going because it's on HBO and getting the crowd amped. And I don't know what the tally was, but they were predicting like 800,000 to 1 million people were going to be there, and there was a lot of people there. I couldn't feel the full scope because I can't see all the way behind me and all the way in front of me. But it was huge. It was the biggest event I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, no, it was.
And so the
really
the three bands we were all, Chris and I knew were both psyched to see, and Luke were Metallica was number one because I had never seen Metallica, and I've been a Metallica fan for like 14, 15 years now.
Same here.
And then Springsteen, which is number one for me. Like, I'm the biggest Springsteen. I love Springsteen. And then, of course, Dave Grohl, hometown hero. And it was great. I mean, there were some bands that I didn't know were going to be there or never really listened to that blew me away. Like, I've never listened to the Zac Brown band, but they were awesome.
Yeah, no, they were great.
And there was a moment when they brought out Springsteen and Grohl, the only time that Springsteen and Grohl were electric all night to do a cover of Fortunate Son.
And that was fantastic.
Oh, it was really great. That was just a great jam. And then, but for me, the ones that blew the house down, and it's not just me as a Metallica fan. I think if you asked anyone there, because one, they have the advantage of being loud, and they're not. And it was I was glad because it wasn't loud to be loud. They were just loud because it worked for their sound.
Yeah.
Was of course Metallica, and there was a shift in tone. There was a shift in everyone who kind of like, if anyone was standing around, there was no one just standing still. And I like at shows, I never like air guitar. I just I'll pump my fist or keep the beat and kind of clap along and just like shake my fist and stuff and sing along and stuff. But I was like, when Metallica started playing, I'd been waiting forever to see Metallica, and so they start with "For Whom the Bell Tolls," and it was just the perfect way to get everyone going. And Rob's doing the kind of crab spider walk around, and Lars is jumping up and down and sweating, doing the thing with his tongue, like blah, blah, and James is like, yeah, and he does the Hetfield hug where he kind of puts his arms out and he's like looking around, and Kirk's just headbanging along. But I was air guitaring. I was just like, fuck yeah, and I was looking around at Chris and Luke, and we were going crazy.
Yeah, I was jamming out.
And, it was a full-on air band.
Full on air band, and Chris sat down and played drums.
Singing.
Yeah, we were screaming along, and I don't usually like sing that loud, but we were just screaming along. And then the biggest shock of all was we knew they were. I didn't know they were going to play "From the Bell Tolls," but that was the first song, whatever. And I knew they were going to play "Enter Sandman."
Mm-hmm.
But the second fucking song they played, man, from the opening riff was "Master of Puppets."
Yeah,
and not just that. A lot of times when they play Master of Puppets live, they ended at the interlude. They played the full-on 8.5-minute song.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking dream, man. Like, that was, like, it's going to sound really lame when I say this, but I almost fucking got emotional, like, watching it, because it took me back to when I was a kid listening to Metallica for the first time, and they sounded so good. Like, there was a period where it was a little hairy, like, James's voice was kind of, giving out a little bit, like, in the kind of mid 2000s, around the after Saint Anger. I think he was straining too hard. I don't know. But they just sounded like a fucking train on fire, man. Like, they were everything I wanted. And it was kind of a bummer because, like, they played 3 songs and I was just like, oh, just let them play the rest of the night. Just let them play until they can't play anymore, man. Like, but then the cool thing was right after was Springsteen. And as Springsteen, did kind of what Dave Grohl did, was just an acoustic set. Dave played what, 2 songs or 3 songs?
I think he just played 2 songs. It was Everlong and
My Hero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, he did Best of You too, right? So I think he didn't he do Best of You?
I don't think he did.
Shit.
Times Like These.
No, I think it was. Okay. I know it was My Hero and Everlong. I thought maybe he did Best of You.
One amazing thing about Dave Grohl doing that set is that he was only like the second or third act.
He was
to
like
go on.
second.
Like Jesse J and Jennifer Hudson did a couple songs.
They were really good.
Yeah, and like that had kind of gotten everything up, and then Dave Grohl comes out and does this really chill acoustic set, and by the time
he definitely had the warmest welcome.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like screaming. It was just like this is Dave Grohl, man.
Yeah, and I felt like just like the vibe. You could kind of feel the vibe, especially by the time he started playing Everlong.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone was just like, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he would also do like the thing where he's like playing, but then even though it's just him and acoustic guitar, he would still do the Dave Grohl scream, which was awesome. But yeah, Springsteen had a similar thing where he played Promised Land, Born in the USA, and Dancing in the Dark, and in like classic Springsteen fashion, he was in him and Grohl were kind of very like not like serious downer mode, but they were very serious and respectful of the event, as everyone was. Like every musician that we saw was very respectful of it. I told Sam I thought James had the perfect little line where it wasn't, he didn't give a big speech in between songs. It was right at the end of Sandman where it kicks back into the riff and they go boom and they kick in one last time. It's kind of like, chaos and kind of whatever. And he does the, the Hetfield thing and he goes, we get to play for our heroes. Like it was just a quick, perfect little thing. And then he kicks right back into the end of Sandman. It was just amazing. And they had all the vets and families behind him as well.
Yeah, that was really cool to see in the vets
just,
like
the energy
rocking out.
was going crazy. So it was in very respectful mode playing his songs. And during the end of Dancing in the Dark, the famous, the last line when he would normally, when he was playing, if you play with a full band, he would say, he goes, "Hey baby," and he looks in the crowd and he brings up a person to dance on stage, which is where Courtney Cox got her start. If you ever watched the Dancing in the Dark video, the person he pulls on stage is Courtney Cox. And so he's kind of serious, and then he does the line, "Hey baby," and he kind of draws it out a bit, and he does like this smile, and he kind of looks up at everyone, and then it was just the perfect way to ended it on this little kind of like, Springsteen still having fun. Like, he's still enjoying himself having fun. And that was such a great little Springsteen thing. And like I said, it's always a treat for me to, like, I haven't seen him that many times, but my dad had seen him twice, in the late 70s and 80s. I saw him on the Devils and Dust tour and then at the concert for Valor. So it was just always a joy to see Springsteen play live because I think a lot of people thought they were booing him. But the classic, you go, Bruce,
yeah, a
Bruce.
lot of.
And so people were like, "Man, people hate Springsteen." It's like, no. This is like a sign of respect for the boss. And he got the welcome he deserved because it's I don't know, arguably like the biggest guy there, like in terms of like just clout and stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool when the jump back to the Zac Brown band when they brought Dave Grohl and Springsteen out. Like I was like, wow, this. Like, not only am I witnessing, a good performance by the Zac Brown band, but I get to see probably the peak of what they've done so far, for sure. Yeah. They're a great band. I have no idea, like, if that's going to be like the peak of like everything that they do. Yeah. But if it is, like, that's a great peak.
Yeah. Well, they had a really great list. They're doing a lot of medleys of great American songs. Just overall. It was a lot of fun. We left before Eminem and Rihanna, so I can't know what to tell you. Although Bryan Cranston was there, and
we basically left at Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston did a great line where he's like, "I'm Bryan Cranston." It was funny because we were leaving, and I was like, "That's
just like I always imagine."
Yeah, exactly. We were leaving, and I was like, "I think that's Bryan Cranston, guys. Is that Bryan Cranston?" I hear, "I'm Bryan Cranston," and I was like, "It's fucking Bryan Cranston," and he goes. He's introducing Rihanna, and he was just something along the lines where he's like, donate to the cause, the concert for Valor.com. And if you don't, a man named Heisenberg is going to visit you. And the crowd was like, fuck yeah, because like Heisenberg sang Heisenberg crazy,
even though he has hair now.
Yeah, even though he looks like Godzilla Heisenberg or Godzilla Cranston, except his hair is real.
Malcolm in the Middle. Malcolm in the Middle.
And he introduced Rihanna. And he he introduced Rihanna, which was so funny.
Yeah, and like you said that she was one of the hardest working ladies in music.
I mean, we were leaving and people were like running like crazy for Rihanna. I don't know if she like tweeted out her time because like people were like they were getting there like at the time. But supposedly Rihanna and Eminem closed the show. But we left and luckily our friend Luke gave us a ride home because the metro was probably terrible with all those people.
Well, what was worse about it, I didn't end up going because I didn't get off work until 4:30, and at that point they had already closed off.
Yeah, they had already. Yeah.
They shut down in its infinite wisdom. The Washington Metro Area Transit Authority shut down the Blue Line on Veterans Day. Yeah. Which leaves only the Orange Line as the only Metro line from Virginia into the district. And it also means that the Arlington Cemetery Metro station is closed because
probably one of the most popular destinations on Veterans Day.
You would think. The largest military
or at least the biggest one in Virginia.
Yeah, the largest military cemetery in the country. And on Veterans Day, it was closed. And I was just like, why? Like, you couldn't schedule track maintenance. Like, I know, why don't you just work on the red line instead? Nobody likes the red line.
Yeah, fix the red line. As a quick point of correction, Yellow Line does have 2 stops in Virginia, but or a couple stops in Virginia.
You're right. Actually, my dad lives close to the Huntington station.
But still, does not change the fact that the blue line probably more necessary, more needed, than the yellow line can go fuck itself. It's not as bad as the red or the green line, but it definitely goes like orange and blue are like the most important lines that you have. Why would you shut down the blue line?
Yeah.
At least the silver line was still running too.
Yeah.
So Ken could get back to resting.
Yeah. But so sounds like you guys had a phenomenal time.
Yeah. The only problem that I had with it, well, other than all the problems of getting there.
Yeah, Mr. Nolan, we owe you a couple chairs.
Yeah, but no, like the only like downside that I'm taking away from it was although I was super excited to see Metallica and I was super into it, like it hurt me so much to finally experience how lackluster of a drummer Lars Ulrich can be. Like the show was great, but like I was like, what? Like I was trying to drum along because I'm a drummer, and I'm like, you're not keeping any semblance of time. What's going on? And like it was a weird dichotomy between me being super pumped about the songs that are being played, and then super disappointed that he and I are basically on the same level technically, when Metallica has been a band for at least as long as I've been alive. And
30 years now.
Yeah,
since '82 at least.
Yeah, so a couple years longer than I've been alive. And I've only been drumming set for 15 years, and I've
taken a 5-year break.
Yeah, I've basically taken a 5-year break because of school and moving to New York and not having my drum set, and then moving back here and just kind of being lazy and not drumming all the time. Like I was like,
and you're still on par with Lars Ulrich.
Yeah, I was like, that's not a good thing. Like I'm not that good. So for us to be, on
just
par.
to be clear,
yeah, just to be clear.
What he's saying is Lars isn't,
Lars. Like I expect better from a guy who's been in a band for over 30 years.
What was the he's kind of like the Gene Simmons from what I understand of Metallica. Like he's the business guy.
Yeah.
Who guest drummed for Lars that one time, and you could see in like Hetfields?
It was Dave Lombardo from Slayer, or formerly of Slayer, and Joey Jordison, formerly of Slipknot. It was at some festival that Metallica, I think, was headlining, and Lars was sick or something, and they filled in for a couple songs, and it's weird. It almost sounded too weird because one, I love Joey Jordison as a drummer. I think he's one of the best around, especially as a metal drummer.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal.
He's great.
But he does double bass. Like I don't mind this. I love double bass, but like he does double bass almost all all throughout Creeping Death. Like not like steady, but like kicks and rolls and stuff, which you never hear Lars do. Like Lars very rarely uses double bass. Like the most famous time is in One when he turns into the machine gun in the end. And then Dave Lombardo is the greatest thrash metal drummer of all time. Like that's not a question or a debate. He is, and so he plays battery. He plays a couple songs, but he does battery, and I swear there's a like a little twinkle. There's a little twinkle in James. There's a little tinkle. There's a little twinkle in James's eye when they're playing it because it is tight.
Yeah.
And Dave Lombardo, I mean, he drummed in fucking Slayer, man. Like he played on the greatest thrash metal album of all time, which is Rain and Blood. Like it would have been. It's in another world somewhere, another dimension. Dave Lombardo joins Slayer, and in another dimension, here's the lineup for Slayer. Dave for Metallica.
Yeah.
Or they could have been called Slayer.
I was about to say, in this dimension, Dave Lombardo.
You got Dave Lombardo on drums, James on lead, vocal and rhythm, Dave Mustaine on lead guitar, and Cliff Burton on bass. Like that's a metal band in some universe. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
It's the greatest thrash metal band of all time.
Yeah.
That's your Metallica Legends lineup.
That's the Metallica Legends lineup.
Sadly, it will never happen in this universe.
Or we'll go old school and get original bassist Ron McGovney, which was like James's friend back in the day. Which they've actually had him on stage a couple times, like doing like playing Kill 'Em All and stuff, which is kind of cool that they still, have their family kind of thing with Metallica. And Dave's played with Metallica, like Phantom Lord and stuff, which is awesome. Yeah. But I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Oh yeah,
I mean it's basically about time to switch topics.
Yeah.
Unless there's any other questions you have.
James
about.
is used to Metallica. Yeah. James, it's funny.
No,
James is used to Lars's shenanigans.
The guitars and everything were tight. Like they weren't they weren't using Lars to keep time or anything like that. So they were
Rob's
able
great
to
on bass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Rob is he helped save Metallica in my opinion. Also, it was awesome to hear what a lot of people consider one of the greatest metal solos and one of the greatest Kirk solos of all time in Puppets. Like a lot of times, like one, The Unforgiven and Puppets is a lot of times you'll hear is like thrown around as like the 3 top solos in Kirk's career, and to hear him just slay on Puppets was really awesome.
Yeah, and Puppets is one of my favorite albums.
That's
it.
That's one of the best.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's up there.
To me, it's I can't really choose between Puppets or Ride the Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it's one of those two.
Well, the thing about Puppets, and we mentioned Rain and Blood, those came out the same year. 86 you have Puppets, Rain and Blood, and Peace Sells But Who's Buying.
Yeah.
In 1986. That's
one of my
Megadeth.
favorite Megadeth songs or albums.
Best Megadeth. Yeah.
That's fucking insanity. I mean, I'd pick my favorite as Rust in Peace, which I think came out the same year as Cowboys from Hell. But like, still, 86 is
which
insane.
is like best Pantera.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother beast. But I would say Vulgar Display. But like, that's the one that saved Pantera's ass. Definitely. That.
Look at that. And what else did 86 bring? You guys.
Me.
Yay.
Yay.
Not me though.
No, fuck you. Me.
Whatever.
Sam.
I came out the same year as Back to the Future.
Yeah, we came out
There
the
you
same
go.
year as Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, that's right.
We were Big Trouble.
In Little Fort Knox.
DC in my case. 6900.
You were born in Fort Knox?
Not in Fort Knox, but I was born in
my parents
Fort
were
Knox.
taking a tour of Fort Knox and then just
Yeah, it's where
right where Oddjob gets electrocuted.
Yeah. But
I was born in Arlington Cemetery just to bring it all home.
Okay.
Or not Arlington Hospital. Sorry, you said
Yeah.
Arlington Cemetery, so it was in my head.
Yeah.
I was born in a cemetery.
A place of life. Life being brought into a world of death. Yeah. Okay, cool. So
Next topic.
Well, you guys were mentioning Dave Grohl. They just put out the album.
Oh yeah, I still haven't listened to it.
It's all right.
I haven't listened to it either.
You know, I think here's the thing. The concept is we're going to take this album and record a song in all the major American cities inspired by that music scene. At the end of the day, it's still just a Foo Fighters record.
Yeah, I feel like watching the show. Like that's the only exposure I've had to the new album so far is watching the show. I feel like it's more so like the lyrics are inspired by the stories that they tell during the episodes, but like all the songs just sound like Foo Fighters songs, which is not a bad thing. I love
any
the Foo Fighters.
standout track or anything in particular?
I like Something From Nothing, which is the album opener.
Okay. They have
is that the
fucking
DC
great
one?
album openers.
No, Something From Nothing is the Chicago.
Right. Oh, that was the show opener.
Yeah, DC is Feast and the Famine.
I loved Feast and the Famine.
That's a great one too. I mean,
but yeah, those two. I mean, I think I've only seen 3 episodes so far.
It's a solid album.
Yeah.
It's it's not as I don't think it's as tight as their last album, Wasting Light, but and I think it's better than some of their weaker material. But at the end of the day, it's just it's still a Foo Fighters. Like for better or worse, this idea of taking the album on the road doesn't really change much. You might get the occasional different guest musician like Zach Brown and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But so if you like the Foo Fighters, you're gonna like this album.
Yeah. One thing that I did notice from the show is that like although they have like guest guitarists and stuff like that, there's nothing so out there that like they would need to tour with. Like they don't need to tour with Zach Brown to be able to recreate that song that he's on.
Yeah,
they don't
Congregation, I think.
Yeah, it's still Foo enough that like they can do it. Like those musicians are channeling Foo Fighters when they're playing.
To fight Foo, you must become Foo.
Yeah. Kung Fu.
Hustle. Yeah, but so that's my big thing. Trying to like tie it up. I know that in terms of new albums, Jake, you just got the new Weezer album.
Yeah, for some reason, after the concert for Valor, the one band I wanted to listen to most was Weezer, and they didn't play. They did not play concert for Valor.
Yeah.
That'd have been great. But Weezer's one of those bands. I've been listening to them like on and off. I go through phases where I'm just getting hardcore Weezer mode, and for some reason I have no idea. I don't know what it is, but I was like, man, I want to listen to some Weezer, and so my go-to, I love almost all their albums. I really dig. There's obviously ones I love more than others, like of course the Blue and Pinkerton. I really love the Red Album, and I think I'm the only person in the world, like between the movie Savages and the album Ratitude, I think I'm the only person who really loves those two things a lot. Like I don't just like it. I really love Ratitude, and I love the movie Savages. But their new album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End, first of all, is a great fucking title. And it's one of those albums, I know, Sam, you've only listened to like a little bit of it, but I think you could hear like they are so rejuvenated as a band.
Yeah.
I thought Hurley was a pretty good album, their last studio album. But there's a spark that's in this album.
Honestly, in a lot of ways, I feel like, I certainly like the Red Album. I like elements of Hurley and Ratitude, but I feel like they had kind of been spinning their wheels for a bit.
There's a bit of that, and then Death to All but False Metal, or Death to All but False Metal is a companion compilation album.
I know what's going through Chris's head.
Yes.
Death to All but Metal,
and
Steel Panther's amazing.
Yeah,
and also Manowar. Death to All False Metal is one of their big lines. They reference that all the time.
Yeah, and.
But yeah, so I mean, in terms of Weezer, obviously the Blue Album is like fucking on the pedestal, right?
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Though my gateway into Weezer was the Green Album, because that was what was playing on MTV. When I was starting to be more cognizant of popular music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I knew like half the songs off of the Blue Album, but the Green Album was the same with me.
Hash Pipe, sure.
Yeah, that was like, oh, okay, I'll check out Weezer.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking bands that really do kind of power. A couple episodes ago, I was like, yeah, I'm all slobbing all over melody,
mm-hmm.
and medleys really. But
mm-hmm.
they're that's Rivers.
Rivers is I love melody as well. Like McCartney's my favorite member of the Beatles, and he's the melody master in my opinion. But like melody, like a good hook, and clever lyrics.
Oh, they're hook heavy.
And Weezer, Rivers has some of the most clever lyrics you'll ever hear. Okay, you want to hear, how do you rhyme the word bitch and kids? Listen to Troublemaker off of the Red Album, and you'll hear how Rivers rhymes the word. This has nothing to do with being clever lyrics, but how he rhymes bitch with kids. It's pretty hilarious. It is classic Weezer.
They never take themselves outside of Pinkerton. They never really take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, and there are moments, very self-aware, almost meta moments on the most recent album, dealing with fans in a good way. But Rivers, I think, has really kind of come full circle with a lot of the stuff. And again, it must have, being a 20-year thing, because he was 24 when the Blue Album came out. Now he's 44 with a wife and kids. And he's not necessarily writing just about the same stuff, but he still can write that great pop song about falling in love with a girl and not being able to explain her to his friends. And it's the hardest rocking I've ever heard Weezer. There's a song called Anonymous. It's part of a three-part kind of opus at the end that closes the album. That is just the most, like, it really is the most hard rocking I've ever heard Weezer. Like, I was like, it's like Foo Fighters level rocking on like Wasting Light.
They did tour with him before.
And
the Foozer tour.
Yeah. And there's something about Rivers, like he's one of those guys I hold up there with my favorite songwriters of all time, because it's just
I don't think he gets enough credit.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. And the song that really the song that really opened Weezer to me was Buddy Holly. I had never heard something that catchy, and again that clever. Like, there's kind of like that kind of not like gangster stuff, but like, when he's like, what's with these homies dissing my girl while they try on the front, which is like the first line of the song, and it's like a guy singing in the Happy Days music video in Owls with the Buddy Holly glasses, and just
he doesn't have the glasses in the video.
No, that's right, yeah, but recalling like looking like Buddy Holly with the glasses, and just this huge, like they're so great at having like dynamics with kicking in with those big crunchy guitars.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. For me, my favorite Weezer stuff is the stuff where they really kind of embrace their arena rock potential.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening to like Dope Nose off Maladroit, or certainly Hash Pipe's a big arena rock song.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're kicking in those huge guitars.
And Rivers can go in and out of heavy lyrics. He's just very seamless with topics and emotions, because Say It Ain't So is, that was, if Buddy Holly was like got Weezer on my radar, Say It Ain't So was like, okay, these guys are the real deal. Because if you kind of just sit back and you don't think about it, it's just kind of a great pop rock song. But then when you really think about it, it's like alcoholism and the sins of the father becoming the sins of the son, and like really heavy stuff. But yeah, the new album, Everything Will Be Alright in the End, is definitely my favorite album of the year. Like, it just, I had only heard good things about it when it came out in the beginning of October, and for some reason, the Concert of Valor made me all about Weezer, and I was like, I got to check it out, and I listened to it, and immediately went and bought it because it's just, it's great. I mean, if you even loved just a song of Weezer back in the day, somewhere during high school, because like I was telling Sam, like the Blue Album always reminds me of like one of my, like every time I hear the Blue Album, it reminds me of like a crush I had on a girl.
Whenever we have like open mic, we used to do so we would have like a battle of the bands in high school, and then we would have an acoustic version of it, and every acoustic there would be someone doing like Undone, the Sweater Song, or Say It Ain't So.
Yeah, so check it out. It's good stuff.
It's a good time.
It's a good time had by all.
Now let's talk about a different time
had by all.
Really, just you and me. Chris wasn't there.
Had by all.
He was working.
Yeah.
Me and Jake saw Nightcrawler.
That's right.
Now, without going into too much detail about the plot, that movie, we're in a year, not just a year of great performances, but a year of great villains.
Absolutely, man. Like, absolutely, Sam. I want to tell you were so dead on with that.
Thanks, Garth.
Yeah, the villains across the board, performances across the board.
Without saying who the villain is, Gone Girl's got a great villain performance.
Holy crapola, yeah. But the performance of Jake Gyllenhaal, man, it's one of those ones. Clearly, it's Jake Gyllenhaal, but when you watch that movie, it's something that I know I've always said, Sam, we've always had this similar thing. You watch the movie, and you don't see Jake Gyllenhaal for a second during that movie. And right from the get-go, it's vile.
Oh, it's like, he's an asshole from, like, Jump.
Yeah, it's a vile movie, and I mean that in a good way. It's not like it's a shit movie. It's a great movie. It's the director's first time directing.
Dan Gilroy.
And he's married to Rene Russo.
That's right, yeah.
And
his brother's Tony Gilroy, who wrote and directed The Bourne Legacy.
Oh, right on. Okay. So, I mean, all the praise Gyllenhaal's way. I mean, it's. I read somewhere he's on film for 116 minutes, and he blinks a total of 6 times.
And, I mean, he lost 20 pounds for the role. And so with how thinned out his face is, it looks like his eyes are just
his eyes look, and there are certain moments where
they're trying to escape.
The light catches his eyes because it's obviously a very nighttime themed movie. And it's just like, his eyes are huge.
Yeah.
I think you said the reason he wanted to lose all that weight and look kind of gaunt was he was like an animal on the prowl.
Sure.
But really intense. I mean, there's some moments that are in this movie that will, down the line and years from now, people will talk about like people talk about in certain classic Scorsese films, just because the way the performance, Gyllenhaal totally loses himself in it. There's a scene in a mirror involving a mirror that had consequences that weren't part of the script, shall we say. And
he just rolled with it.
Just rolls with it because he was so into it.
It's in the trailer, but the it's really the feel bad movie of the year. You don't go to it like you kind of feel like you need a cold shower after you watch the movie,
or a cold beer, which in that
or
we
a
did.
cold gin,
or a cold gin. But speaking of Weezer, playing the cold gin on the riff.
Weezer, River's Cold was first song on the guitar. Oh,
it's a phenomenal movie, but it's weird. I remember just being like, it's phenomenal, but be prepared to be disturbed.
Yeah. Am I ever gonna buy this movie? Am I ever gonna actively watch this movie again?
Yeah. To watch it again, just to count to see if he really blinks only 6 times.
Yeah.
But Rene Russo. She's not in that much stuff anymore, but she was pretty good in it.
Yeah.
She
had that in the Thor movies. That's it.
Yeah, she fucking goes off in that one scene where like her voice cracks.
Yeah.
She's just screaming.
Yeah.
Involving like what the news does and how it manipulates people is really fascinating about the movie.
Which is another kind of tie-in to Gone Girl.
Mm-hmm.
How sensationalist news media is these days.
I mean, I loved Nightcrawler, but it's funny. I was thinking but I was just thinking a lot about Gone Girl after seeing Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Because there's Nightcrawlers all throughout that movie. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and Gone Girl. And just the life of a Nightcrawler, like.
Yeah, I too would want to be a German-speaking member of the X-Men.
Yeah.
I resisted making that joke because I felt like I made that joke far too many times before the movie came out. So I decided to stop. But you, no. Went for it.
Restraint? Never.
Yeah.
Retreat in a moment of triumph. I think you overestimate their chances.
And then they won.
Yeah. Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's what Grand Moff Tarkin says.
Yeah.
Before the entire thing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. But
I just had nothing to add.
Yeah, I mean, because he blows up. The now, what are some of just in general? Because watching both this and Gone Girl has got me thinking. What are some of your favorite on-screen villains, like Darth Vader or Grand Moff Tarkin? But Grand Moff Tarkin would never make the list.
No, the two for me, the two best performances that I've ever seen involving villains, and evil. The first is probably a fairly obvious choice, but it's Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. 2 is one of the straight-up best performances I've ever seen by a human being on this lovely planet Earth. It's Ralph Fiennes as Amon Gert in Schindler's List. Which was
apparently so terrifying that real-life Holocaust survivors...
And he lost to Tommy Lee Jones for The Fugitive.
Yeah, they were petrified when they saw him.
That is, for me, the best villain performance I've ever seen. It can't come close. One, it has the awful background that it was a real person and those things really happened. But that performance is just, I mean, that it's unreal. It's so disheartening, and I know if you already used the word vile, but if you watch, I mean, if you've never seen the movie, I mean, God, it's hideous. And the only way that Ralph Fiennes could have done it any kind of proper telling was to do it as he did in the most truthful and horrible way he could have done it, and it shows on screen. And for me, when you were saying villain, boom, first that just pops right in my mind. There's plenty more, but those two for certain.
As I'm sure you know by now, I'm very bad at cataloging, top whatever. The only one that comes to mind is just because we've been talking about it, the bad guy in Gone Girl. I technically I feel like it's still too fresh to really talk about who the bad guy is, but just for spoilers and whatnot. But the bad guy in Gone Girl, it's the only one that pops into my mind right now.
Surely, though, Chris, there's somebody that you're like, oh, I really like Thunder in Big Trouble in Little China. Second reference this episode, by the way.
I mean, yeah, no.
Because I'm not going to go as I will certainly say in terms of sheer fucking evil. Yeah, Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List. Yeah. Now, in terms of another one I think that's a great villain is Lee Van Cleef as Angel Eyes in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Sure. Yeah.
Where it's like you never know what he's going to fucking do when he's on the screen. Or in Once Upon a Time in China, or not. Well, Once Upon a Time in China is a decent kung fu movie.
You were gonna say Once Upon a Time in the West, Jim West. That's his damn man in the West.
That's the one.
I mean, it is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Well, Chris is gonna say Dr. Loveless.
Yeah.
But the
well, actually, I was thinking. I forget his name, but Westworld, the gunman.
Yul Brynner?
Yeah, Yul Brynner. He did a great job as a robot.
Wearing the same outfit he wore in The Magnificent Seven?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that was a nice little nod.
Yeah.
But to the villain of Once Upon a Time in the West, which was actually what I was trying to say before I just threw in China because I don't know, I really wanted to get an egg roll.
Jim West.
Yeah, and I really wanted to but the Henry Fonda is the bad guy in Once Upon a Time in the West. We're talking about a guy that had been in Hollywood for decades being like the nice guy. And then the first time you see him in Once Upon a Time in the West, he straight up just shoots a little kid. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I have to imagine what theater goers in 1968 were like, because the trailer doesn't reveal that he's all the DVD cases and stuff, he's clearly like the asshole. Yeah. But like the
it says and Henry Fonda as clearly the asshole.
Yeah. That's one of the great villains. And of course we were talking 2001 last week. And how terrifying is Cold Mechanical HAL 9000?
Yeah. Every robot voice you hear in a movie is either doing that voice or consciously not trying to do that voice. Yeah. But you're inspired by it either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which oddly enough, his voice was inspired by IBM's first fully programmed song, where like they didn't like record instruments playing and then just play it back, but they actually programmed in all the sounds. And it's a computer or a row of computers probably singing Bicycle Built for Two or Daisy or whatever the hell the song is, and which is why Hal later in the movie actually sings it as he's kind of powering down.
Now, in terms of some villains, I know Chris is still terrified of Large Marge.
I am, but I wouldn't count her as a villain. Because she's actually very helpful. You know, she does nothing to antagonize. She's just a terrifying little subplot. So that's why I don't count her as a villain.
I'm still, and I mentioned this in the Batman Returns commentary, which is available now. And you should totally download because I'm a shameless plugger. Danny DeVito's performance as the Penguin.
Yes.
Terrifying.
Yes.
For me.
Yes.
I'm sure, Jack Nicholson is the Joker.
Jack Nicholson's Joker, and just rewatched it again and again and again. Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
Changed the game as well.
For comic book villains, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I still, in terms of Jokers, out of the two of them, I feel like I enjoy Jack Nicholson's Joker better, but I do lean towards Dark Knight being the better movie or the more entertaining movie, per se.
I mean, comparing the two of them, the only thing that you can compare is they both have the name the Joker.
And they both wear purple suits.
There couldn't be anything more... I mean, a lot of people laugh. I mean, it's...
They both have grins.
A lot of people have grins.
They both like to use guns.
A lot of people use guns.
They both fight Batman.
A lot of people fight Batman.
They do.
But
that is a fact. Those other ones, who knows? But that one, the Joker fighting the Batman.
There it is.
That's the key. But yeah, they're completely different. Everything about the two of them.
Yeah, and of course we have gone on in great detail about fucking villains in horror movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jake, you're a big Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees guy.
That's right.
Chris, you're a big Freddy Krueger guy.
Straight
out of Compton or Elm Street. I'm sure Compton has an Elm Street.
Yeah, they chose Elm Street because pretty much every major city has an Elm Street somewhere.
Yeah. How shitty does Los Angeles look to live in Los Angeles in Nightcrawler?
Shit.
Like every night.
I mean, to be fair, how shit does Los Angeles look to live in anytime?
Take Los Angeles over Detroit. But every fucking night in Nightcrawler is like, oh, this dude just got stabbed. Oh, this dude just got in a car accident. Oh, there's a plane crash. Oh, there's an atomic bomb going off.
Yeah, there's a scene where they have they show like a little montage of like stuff he's seen, and they say it's only been a couple months. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like unreal.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's General Zod fighting over the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Now Terrence Stamp is General Zod. I'll take him over Michael Shannon any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Is
there a villain in Song of the South?
Racism.
Yeah, that's always a villain.
It's actually not a villain in
Birth of a Nation.
Yeah, thank you for knowing the name.
Yeah,
because I forgot it as soon as I leaned up to the microphone. I was like, "Nope, you forget the name of that movie."
Yeah, you should because it's terrible. And yet, one of the highest-grossing films of the year was released. It was also, I think, it was Woodrow Wilson's favorite film. Of course, history shows we now know Woodrow Wilson, a bit of a racist. So, and interestingly enough, the last U.S. president born in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yay!
Oh. We couldn't have ended with Jefferson or something. God damn it! But yeah, I mean,
still the state with the most presidents, though.
Yeah,
I will take that fact
to the bank.
The blood bank.
Steven Seagal once took on Tommy Lee Jones as a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Tommy Lee Jones because fuck Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal probably is a villain.
Yeah, probably. What are some... Oh, Kurt Russell in Death Proof. I'm trying to think of like great, like you were saying, like Kurt Russell's always the good guy. I'm trying to think of great turns.
Henry Fonda.
Yeah, great turns.
Like Heath Ledger too.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained. It's
huge,
great.
Yeah,
big timer.
And if we're talking about scenes that went out of control, like Nightcrawler when he cuts his hand on the skull in Django, that wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
And so Kerry Washington's actually reacting because he's rubbing his actual blood
on her face. Yeah,
Jesus.
That's a villain,
just unsanitary.
Yeah.
Roll with it.
Yeah, Tarantino on the side.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Yes.
I'm actually, he reaffirmed in an interview this week that after 10 movies, and he's counting he counts Kill Bill as one, but he also counts Death Proof. After 10 movies, he's going to retire.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
Jay-Z said he was going to retire after the Black Album.
He did. I saw him on his farewell tour. I did quotation marks because, as you know, he came back with Kingdom Come, and Mark Waid's just like, I think it was really cool that he named his comeback album after my book.
Yeah.
Too bad he couldn't get Alex Ross to draw the cover.
Yeah, of like Jay-Z with white sideburns, like like punching Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I don't know any other. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is not known for playing heroic characters, and yet he's a great villain in Gangs New York.
Yeah, and There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, I guess
a lot of people say that if you watch that movie again, he's the devil in that movie. Like he is coming out of, in the beginning of that movie, he's coming out of the ground, born of fire. Like he's an embodiment of the devil. Which I thought was kind of cool. I never thought about that, but someone came in and was like, yeah, you should watch the movie again. Just think he's the devil the whole time. I'm like, oh, he's pretty fucking terrible. And isn't his kid blind?
Deaf.
Okay. The reason he's not won over by the shit he says is because he can't hear the tongues of the lies of the devil.
Interesting. He has a new film. Paul Anderson has a new film.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but it was before Interstellar. The trailer looks really great.
With Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, that's the one.
Queen.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix makes a great villain in Gladiator.
He does. That was like what launched his career.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie he was in, the mockumentary?
Oh, I never saw I'm Not Here.
It's fucking great. I remember I put that on my top 10 list when I was working on Blog.
Is he a great villain in that?
Yeah, because he gets he gets shit on in that movie. Like literally, his secretary shits on his face at one point.
Wait, what?
His
spoilers for I'm Not Here. Joaquin Phoenix gets shit on.
Joaquin Phoenix is asleep, and his I think it's his assistant or whatever. He's just like verbally shitting on him, and then his assistant in the middle of the night, there's like a camera on the bed, squats over top of his face and shits on him. And Joaquin Phoenix wakes up and he's like, "Is this fucking shit?" And they go fucking at it. They go crazy. Like the movie is one of the best. I remember, it's all fake. I mean, it's not fake. I mean, he's not really going insane, but he had to buy. When he went on Letterman, he had to didn't tell anyone because it was all part of this documentary. So if you watch it, it's seriously like I'm not joking when I say this. It's one of the best performances ever because at the end of the movie, he's like doing the rap and he's like falling off the stage and he's just got to buy in everything. There's like a almost like heartbreaking scene where he's just losing his mind doing snow angels and like laughing his ass off at his friend, like, and they invite like strippers over and they're doing cocaine in his house. Like it's unbelievable. I mean, so you could call him a villain, I guess, because he pisses everyone off in the movie and gets shit on in the movie.
I mean, just because you've been shit on doesn't
mean.
But
to piss someone off enough to get shit on, you got to have done something bad. Like he's not a good guy in that movie. He's not.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like a villain, but I mean, because that movie is just so weird and out there and wild.
Well, I do feel like we're in an age though where we like to see. We seem to be drawn by villains.
Oh yeah.
You look at Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. Clearly a fucking villain.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I mean, Breaking Bad, for Christ's sake.
Breaking Bad, a huge example. There's very charismatic villains in shows like The Walking Dead.
Uh-huh. I mean, they're always going back. I mean, my favorite character in The Walking Dead is the governor. And I don't say that because I agree with what he's doing. It's because I think
I remember people gave you shit for that. And it's like, do you actually think I support?
Yeah, I don't support anything he does in the book. And one, because he's not a real person. It's because I think he was a great villain.
Yeah.
Now, in the comic book, he's almost a slapstick because he's. Just spoilers for Walking Dead because I don't want to spoil it, but stop listening. He does some really unbelievably fucked up shit to Michonne, and
to Rick,
and to Rick, and just everyone. In the book, he cuts off Rick's hand.
Yeah.
Like right after he meets him, he's like, "Hey, welcome to this paradise. Fuck you," and like cuts his hand off. But then Michonne
got your hand.
Michonne takes a spoon basically and sticks it up his ass over and over again, and then uses that same spoon and pops his eyeball out. Then nails his dick to a board, and then cuts off his arm, and then I think cuts like a part of his pelvis, so he's permanently.
I think she cuts off some of his fingers too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and then cuts a part of his like a muscle in his pelvis thing, so he can't walk properly, and leaves him for dead, but he's still alive. And so that's
why didn't she just kill him?
Yeah, and that's what she asked herself, And so there's a moment where he has an eye patch
because killing him would be too easy.
I guess.
It kind of bites him in the ass, though.
Yeah, and so he comes back in like this armor, and they have the famous kill them all, and
it's where the mid-season finale for season 4
comes from. And he's got like a Fu Manchu kind of mustache and long hair, so
biker.
Like he looks like a bad guy when you meet him. So the genius thing about the TV show is David Morrissey, who's fantastic. Like I had watched the show before I read the book. So David Morrissey's Governor I love way more than the comic book Governor.
Yeah.
Because he breathes more life into him, and they purposely, if you don't know the books, which I hadn't read, I knew the Governor was a bad guy, but if you weren't aware what was going on, you'd almost believe everything he's saying because he comes off as a nice guy.
Yeah, it's like his second or third episode.
You're more back into you're rewatching that, and you have it more fresh in your mind than I do.
I do. Yeah, I've been rewatching one of the shows I've been watching lately. I've been rewatching The Walking Dead, kind of like Chris did a couple months ago, because I haven't seen those early episodes since they were like on.
Oh, really?
For the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm like watching the beginning of season 3. I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Oh yeah, the Governor doesn't he's basically running Pleasant. If from all until you get further into Woodbury, you're just like, oh, he's like running like this like oasis of
everything's cool.
Yeah, it's like kind of like this Pleasantville scenario. It's like, oh, he's all right, he's cool,
yeah.
And then he kills like all the National Guardsmen, and you're like, oh, okay, he's not.
No, he's not. And his turn was great because, like I said, people love good villains, and there's a moment in the mid-season 3 premiere where all hell breaks loose and the Walkers invade Woodbury, and there's a gif of him walking through smoke, and a zombie's walking toward him, and he doesn't even really look at him, just a hip shoot, like he shoots from the hip and blows its head off. And I was like, dude, this guy's fucking badass. Because he got the trench coat and the eye patch is always badass. And then he just goes full on evil. And then the great thing is in season 4, they kind of tell the story about like how he almost redeemed himself. Almost. Like he's so close, which makes a great villain. Like being able to almost redeem yourself.
Well, I mean, when he finally shows his villainous colors again, he's screaming, I don't want this.
Yeah.
But he can't escape what he is.
He can't. Yeah, and then the prospect of finally being able to kill Rick and take that jail over is too much for him, and he slips back into his old ways.
Yeah.
And leads to my favorite episode of The Walking Dead is the mid-season 4 finale, which is fantastic.
I always love because, like, again, spoilers if you haven't seen The Walking Dead, but we're almost halfway through season 5 at this point.
Yeah.
So Rick's basically begging him to, he's like, look, we can make this work together.
Mm-hmm.
You have a fucking tank.
Yeah, yeah.
How do they... anyway, logistics aside, how they came across a fully functional fucking tank.
Yeah.
He's just like, and he's just like, nope. And
yeah.
he just cuts off Herschel's head and was like, oh, okay. Because his hatred, kind of like Lex Luthor, could be he's one of the smartest people in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm. And
he could, cure cancer. He's got enough resources to help stem global hunger and environmental shit. But instead, he's just like, you know what? Fuck Superman. It's both this fear and jealousy, really, of Superman that prevents him from kind of living to his heroic potential.
Yeah. Do you think if Bruce Wayne's parents hadn't been shot and killed, he would have grown up to be either friends with or very similar to Lex Luthor?
I don't think he'll... Because they
probably would have been rivals.
Think so?
If anything.
Because there was a comic that came out recently that pretty much shows how similar they are. Yeah. And I think if his parents were never killed, there's a good chance in my mind that he would have been very similar to Lex Luthor. Not in terms of like fighting Superman and hating Superman.
I still think that Bruce has got better role models than Lex, though.
Yeah, he does. But
we never get to really know the Waynes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a problem that I have with Gotham.
Yeah, listen to Gotham, everything after. It's an earlier podcast, but where we go into better detail about that. But he's certainly got Alfred, who would be probably the more active, hands-on caretaker, even with the Waynes alive, because they're busy doing Wayne things.
Yeah, I just don't know if he would have got wrapped up in the money. And
I mean, there's certainly there could be. He could, if anything, I would think he would maybe come up more like Oliver Queen, pre-Island, where he's kind of a spoiled rich kid, but not a sociopathic one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been interesting to see. Because, it's almost it's kind of fucked up, but, does Bruce Wayne become a better man with his parents' death?
He's got a purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose is very singularly, I don't want the same evil that took my parents' lives to exist anymore.
Exactly. And, that JLU episode where they reference the Alan Moore comic.
For the man who has everything?
When they show Bruce's dream. His dream isn't that event never happened. His dream is that his dad saves the day.
Beats the shit out
of
the mugger.
That's heartbreaking. I was talking to my buddy Alex about it at the comic shop. And yeah, it's not that it never happened. It's that he got to see his dad win. That's fucking, that's heartbreaking. It's kind of awesome though at the same time. I mean, that's just a...
Because in Bruce Wayne's mind, every villain he faces has the potential to be a Joe Chill.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he doesn't hold back. At least not in terms of fighting. He doesn't cross the line.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What about villains that turn the page, like a la Apollo Creed becomes Rocky Balboa's best friend?
The redemption of villains.
Yeah. Darth Vader, of course, being one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, it's interesting because with Star Wars, if you just watch the original trilogy, it's the story of Luke Skywalker coming of age.
Yeah.
And then you add the prequels, and it's about the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. I do love the prequels for that, to get that across, because I think Anakin Skywalker is a fascinating character, and the arc of him is fascinating.
I mean, this is one of the big reasons why Chris doesn't have the trilogy on Blu-ray. The scene where Darth Vader, where they added the audio of him
screaming no.
Yeah, when he.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, and I've talked about this before, and if I talked about it on the podcast before, I apologize, but him screaming no in Revenge of the Sith, I have no problem with. I mean, it's hokey as shit, but I don't have a problem with it because that's a man, what's left of a man, finding out everything in his life is fucked.
Even if it is played almost for laughs.
It's almost it was played like Frankenstein. And so, but it is. It unfortunately, the execution of it damages it more than it helps it. But I don't have a problem with it happening. When you add that to one of the best scenes in the entire saga of Star Wars, of Vader basically becoming Anakin again and killing the Emperor and saving his son, although he takes a sweet-ass time. He kind of watches it over. He's like, meh.
Well, and it's that's almost played for laughs too, right?
He's looking.
Well, it's a full-on look too. It's
yeah, he does he turns his whole body.
He's huh? Oh. This is going on. Oh, and you're getting hurt.
Yeah.
And you're still doing it.
Yeah, you're kind of a whiny bitch about it. You're being whiny. Ask nicer. And then he picks him up, and he picks up in that great shot where he the electrocution, the bolts come down, and you see the skull in his.
Yeah, that's what kills him.
But yeah, he yells no at that point
in the Blu-ray
release, and that for me is worse than adding any kind of stupid puppets, CG, dumbass Jabba the Hutt in New Hope, which is one of the laziest, stupidest things I've ever seen.
Chris, isn't that your least
That's
favorite
unbelievable.
Part?
It is, yeah. The worst, the two terrible things about Jabba being in Star Wars, is in Episode 4, as it was later called, is one. The big thing, in my opinion, is actually that scene is just a rehashing of all the exposition that you just got in the Greedo scene. And then two, when he fucking steps on his tail, because when they shot it, Jabba was just a dude, not a snail.
Yep.
It looks like some of the worst CG.
Han goes, like going upstairs and coming down. Like it's like they cut. It's that's so
terrible key framing.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the?
And also, then like, does that mean that Jabba's a little bitch and lets anyone step on his tail and no repercussions? Han Solo's already on the shit list. If you think about it,
he owes him money.
Yeah, if you think about it, that means that not only does he owe him money, which he has a death, he has
a bounty on his head.
Yeah, he has a bounty on his head, which is a dead or alive bounty, and you just stepped on the guy's tail? You're fucking dead.
Unbelievable.
Boba Fett's right there, too.
Jabba is the worst gangster in the world now with that scene added back in.
Or at least the biggest pushover.
Yeah. That's a shit gangster.
Yeah, he gets so pissed. He probably goes home and thinks about it. It's like, you know what? I'm going to send IG-88 and Boba Fett and Bosk and all those other...
Also, the songs being replaced in Return of the Jedi made me sad.
Lack of Lopti neck.
Yeah, and and Yub Nub.
Yeah, for that weird instrumental piece.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember...
hold on. While we're on the topic, speaking of like the Ewok song Yub Nub at the end of Return of the Jedi, a lot of people have been like, "Holy shit, that one of the Ewoks is playing." Stormtrooper helmets as bongos or whatever during that song. That means they ate the stormtroopers. They're cannibals. And someone said that to me, and I was like, yeah. Remember how they're introduced? They're about to cook Han.
As far as they're concerned, it's just another potential food source.
Yeah, it's like no shit, they're cannibals.
They're not the same species.
I'm sorry, not cannibals. They're meat eaters.
Carnivores.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, it's not necessarily about the Ewoks. What the fuck does that mean? They're feeding. Like, what are the rest of them eating? Like Luke and Leia and Han. They're like, do you have some lettuce that I can eat? No, if you get a chunk of meat. You just fought in a battle. You're gonna be famished. Like
it's probably like Temple of Doom when Willie asks for soup instead of beetles.
Yes, they just give you like a turned over stormtrooper helmet full of blood, and here you go,
and eyeballs like Temple of Doom.
Here you go.
Literally.
Yeah, just like and then
George Lucas just rehashed Temple of Doom.
Yeah, and then they have chilled stormtrooper brains, and Leia faints.
Yeah, and then they cut a stormtrooper open, and little stormtroopers come out. In the armor still.
Yeah. Now, I gotta be honest.
Now I want to watch Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I want to watch all of them except for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But that never, if you think about it though, Indiana Jones, while we're on the topic of villains, nothing particularly noteworthy about the villains. Belloc is as close as it gets.
Yeah, Elton John Nazi.
Yeah. He's the one that melts, right?
Yeah.
Well,
they both melt.
Well,
he's the one
but he tries out. One melts and one explodes.
He goes, and like the way the one other Nazi's like there's trying to explain on a podcast is pointless, but go watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. Elsa has a nice turn.
Elsa's villain, yeah.
Yeah, in Last Crusade.
Also...
Oh, I thought you were talking about Frozen.
Yeah. I've never, haven't seen that.
Still haven't seen it.
Is she the villain in Frozen?
I have no idea. I think she's a character.
That kiss.
She's the ice queen, right?
Where she says where she says goodbye to Harrison Ford, like, this is how we say goodbye in Austria, and like does the thing with his lip, and I was like, oh wow. I'm like 6 years old, and I'm like, I need
Sam Stone likes girls.
Yeah, Sam Stone needs an adult.
Yeah. Well, here's the big Mac Daddy question.
Ooh.
Because there's actually this fits perfectly because a man was just cast as the villain in the latest Bond movie, Christoph Waltz, who played a hell of a villain in Inglourious Bastards. James Bond is some of the best screen villains of all time.
That's a bingo.
Jaws.
That's what you say, right?
Yeah.
We just say bingo.
Jaws. Goldfinger.
Dr. No.
Dr. No.
Yeah.
GoldenEye.
No.
Oh, sorry, we're talking about villains, not
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro. Blofeld.
Did you mention Walken?
No.
Octopus War.
No. Walken.
Yeah.
Well, I figured by you saying Walken,
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Max Zorn. You amuse me, Mr. Bond.
Yeah.
And of course, Mads Mikkelsen in Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sean Bean.
Yeah, the Chief.
Oh
Crying
God,
Blood.
like Sean Bean.
006.
Yeah, that's one of the best fist fights in any.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He
and
dies
Sam
about.
knows his fisting.
He dies. He dies about 5 times in that movie too.
It's Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how everybody in. Like I was kind of saying earlier, that's for me like how I imagine people like introduce themselves. Like, hi, I'm
by
Sean.
saying their name. Yeah.
Yeah. Who you say at the beginning of this episode that I was like, oh, just like
Oh, Bryan Cranston.
That's right. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bryan Cranston.
I'm just like that's exactly how
Yeah.
I imagine that happening.
So
Like he would just walk into a restaurant and that's what he would do.
yeah.
I am Bryan Cranston. Can I get a
Well,
Coke?
Ellen used to do this thing. I don't know if she still does it, where she would have celebrities walk into like public places with an earpiece, and she would tell them what to say. And she had Dennis Quaid walk into a Starbucks, and she's like, "Announce yourself." And he walks in and he goes, "Dennis Quaid is here," and like no one gives a shit. And he's just like, "I'll have coffee," and he's just like being like,
I'm not Randy Quaid, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's really funny. But
did you ever watch Boston Public or no, not Boston Public, Boston Legal?
no.
Yes.
William Shatner's character would always Denny Crane would sometimes punctuate sentences with his name just to like almost like as if he was like quoting himself, just like you should give me a ice cold latte. Denny Crane.
It's such a good show. You got to watch it.
I almost had an episode of Arrow spoiled by William Shatner.
Oh yeah, because he live tweets.
He live tweets it, and he's really funny. He's actually hilarious to follow on Twitter.
I would love to see him as the only time I've seen William Shatner as a villain was on an episode of Columbo. Just randomly. And there's a dude at the bar, was it this past week, that was dressed up as fucking Columbo, by which I mean he had greasy brown hair and a trench coat and a shirt and tie that it looked like he slept in.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
I was just like, Columbo, hey, I thought you were dead.
Yeah, I remember I was working that night, and I was kind of like off to the side joking about like some guy being a creep or something like that, and you were like, "Oh, Columbo over there," and I was like, "I've never seen an episode of Columbo, but I know exactly who you're talking about."
That's the one. That's the one. But yeah, I don't know. We're in a golden age of villains, gentlemen.
Yes.
Oh, Khan.
Yes, preferably Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, no, yeah. When I say Khan, I mean Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, yeah. Like, all due respect to Benedict Cumberbatch, but that just wasn't Khan, man. Like, you could have been any other pencil in any other genetic superhuman.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun seeing him be one of the answers on our trivia thing.
It was also cool to see him crush Peter Weller's skull with his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of our trivia thing, might as well announce it. It's something that we're pretty proud of. Sam and I are regular trivia goers at the Old Shebeen here in Fairfax, and they had decided to do this special thing where they did kind of like a championship trivia
contest of champions.
Yeah. So for the past 2-3 months, they've been taking the winner of each night. And they've been, they're added to this list of people eligible to participate in this special trivia thing. And we were one of them. We are the only 2-man team at the bar. So to get your ass handed to you trivially by us is especially embarrassing. And so we go, and it's almost a day-long event because it's not just the one round of 30 questions like it normally is. It was... what was it? 2 rounds of 25 questions, then like 10 or 15 or something like that.
16 of the picture identifications.
Identify these pictures, and then another round of 25 questions, and we got 4th place.
We did.
Yeah,
which was the first place not to get a prize.
Yeah,
but hey, it's always I don't necessarily do it. I mean, I'm not going to turn down the prize.
Yeah,
but in the event that I ever win it.
Again.
Yeah. Well, we get the regular nights, but just happy to be here. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, and what was really nice. So we did the 2 rounds of the 25 questions, then we did the picture thing, and that's where they added up. They cumulatively, took those scores that you got on all of those, added them up, and dropped the lowest ranking 3.
I want to say it was like
5.
Something there was only like 8 left after that.
Teams, and knocked them out of, and only like like 5 of us left over to do the last section. And go us for being able to not only did we make it past the first cut, but we also beat several teams.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, again, 4th place, I'll take that. I remember you went over across the bar to congratulate a team that you had thought had gotten 3rd place.
So a couple of our friends are on another team, and for whatever reason we never joined forces to make one super team, but it would suck to have to split the prize that far anyway. But I thought they had won 3rd place because I'm an idiot and I don't know what my friends call their team name. So I went over to congratulate them, and I was like, "Oh, hey, good job, guys!" And then like kind of did like a victory, like not bad for 4th place, right? Yeah. And then like I walked away and talked to one of the other guys that was on that team who was paying out at the bar, and I was like, "Hey, good job." And he informed me that that we had actually beat them. And I was like, "Ooh, I thought you guys were this team." And he was like, "No, that's another team." And I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have been like, so what'd you guys get as a prize?" when I went over to them.
Oh, I didn't know they even recognized 7th place.
Up your nose with a rubber hand.
Yeah. I mean, they had gone into the last round as like one of the lead teams.
Yeah.
And then something happened. All of them had like a brain fart at the same time. They botched the last bit, which sucks because they were doing so well.
We were actually one of the stragglers going into the final round.
Yeah, we were. I think we were the lowest ranked people to get into.
Which might have just been because they like us.
Yeah.
And then, we won't cut off these guys. And
it's like, we're only supposed to have 6 teams in the final thing. Yeah, but Sam and Chris, they're cool. Okay, fine, we'll do 7 teams.
Yeah. And then
something like that.
And then we end up getting 4th, and it was like, oh, okay, well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always a lot of fun. We do a lot of bar trivia and that all that jazz. So yeah. Cool beans.
Cool fucking beans.
Yeah.
Old shebeens.
Old shebeens. Damn right. Now, So, any other things you guys want to talk about before we sign off? Any last-minute villains come to mind? Timothy Dalton in The Rocketeer.
Good one.
Yeah,
Good one.
just out of nowhere. Al Pacino in Scarface. Al Pacino in everything.
Treat Williams in The Phantom.
Oh, he's fucking terrible in that movie.
He is. I love that movie, but he's so over. He spears a man in a board meeting.
Yeah.
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 I really now I'm thinking
Tim Curry in Legend?
Yeah, I'm thinking the first real series that focused on the bad guy was what, like The Sopranos? Yes?
Maybe. I don't know.
As I look at the dead air.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think.
As you look at the waveform, just go to 0.
Yeah, I was like, oh. Yeah. Because without that, who knows? We wouldn't get the nuanced characters, maybe like, certainly Walter White or who the fuck is that guy in Mad Men? Don Draper?
Don Draper's pretty
I don't know if I'd necessarily call him a full-on villain, but he's not a hero.
He's definitely not the protagonist.
He's pretty villainous.
Well, I always thought the show more was more about Peggy, played by Elizabeth Olsen, because the show starts on her first day at Sterling Cooper.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it also starts though like Don Draper like at a bar, and he's just like,
trying to come up with
what's your favorite cigarette?
Yeah.
Why? And he's just alone all of a sudden.
Yeah. But
hey, pack your marble, let's smoke 'em.
Joffrey is a great TV villain.
Yeah.
You always want to see that, like
celebrated.
Celebrated death of a villain.
Celebrated death of a villain. I'm trying to think. I'm just TV villains in general, but
those are the big ones.
Yeah,
those are the big ones. But yeah, so let's let us know in the comments what some of your villains are, because we don't hear from you guys enough.
Yeah. Talk to us more.
Yeah, and let us know if you listen to the commentaries, please, God.
Yeah. Or are we wasting our time and bandwidth?
Again, we see that people are downloading it.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that.
We know you're out there.
Yeah. We know you're listening in Qatar.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we address that for a hot second? What's up with Qatar? Like I have nothing against people in Qatar listening.
They love you. That's how World According to Chris got the big bump.
Yeah. But yeah, what's the deal? How did you find us? Are we big in Qatar? I doubt it because I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more than like 10 people in Qatar.
Yeah.
But
50. We got over 50 downloads.
But yeah, talk to us.
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know
how
we're doing.
Leave us a review.
We want to know from you. We love you.
Again, thanks for all the support.
Yeah.
We've been, we've got over 800 downloads now. We've got, at the time of the recording, we've got 200 downloads for the month of November alone. So thank you again for, making this all work. And when to be fair, I do hear from people like on like Google Chat and stuff. They're like, hey, I've been listening. And I'm always like, hey, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My dad loves us. Yeah. Says we're great.
Yeah. So, to those folks, awesome. Thank you. But yeah, we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what we could do better.
Yeah. Or what we could do worse.
Yeah. Everything. Hopefully. So hopefully we're not bottom of the barrel on some aspects. So thanks again, guys. And just stick around. We're going to have some great stuff for you. And of course, we're continuing our Batman stuff. So stay tuned to that too.
Yeah. And just as a semi-regular reminder, we are on Facebook and we're on Twitter. You can find us, search Geek Out Show on Facebook, and our Twitter is Geek Out Podcast. You can talk to us there too. We all have, the stuff on our, cell phones. They're attached to our, computers and stuff like that. We look at it all the time, waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I usually do it when, in between. I won't even go. Okay, I won't even say that was going to take a dark turn. So watch Nightcrawler and talk about villains.
And go see Interstellar. I saw Interstellar again with my dad in IMAX, and it's awesome.
Did he cry like you anticipated?
Unfortunately, no. I was expecting Niagara Falls.
Yeah, as you alluded to last week.
Yeah, well, and next week probably.
You can talk about absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about time relativity. But I did hear some sniffles, and that made me feel good because I was like, oh yes. I do know my dad. He likes family stuff.
Well, it's good.
Yeah.
I still need to see it a second time. I've been meaning to.
So good.
And, I know.
Birdman?
Let's
go see Birdman.
Go see Birdman. See Nightcrawler if you want a creepy time and a great star, performance by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
New Weezer album.
New Weezer album, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything will be
new
right
Foo
in the
Fighters
end, guys.
album.
Yeah. If you love the Foos, you're going to love this album. It's just not a huge leap. If you're expecting something completely fucking different, sorry.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking for some solid Foo Fighters music, look no further.
Oh, you know what? Pee-wee's Playhouse on Blu-ray. Go check that out. If we're going to start plugging, everything. It's
Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Yeah. Pee-wee's Playhouse on Blu-ray is on my
digital
wish list.
Download.
I would love for someone to buy that for me. It is $100 though, so but it was shot on 35mm film, so it's very easy to transfer to Blu-ray, and they cleaned up a lot of stuff on it.
Batman 66 is on Blu-ray now.
Yeah.
So if you want to spend $180 on me, there you go. But so
Jake, do you want anyone to?
Jeff John's Hawkman Omnibus, $75. That's the cheapest out of all of it so far. So buy that from me, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Christmas is right around that corner.
If people do want to start sending us money, I will set up a donation button on our on something, and you can send money to us. That would help us out because this does cost us money, and we don't make money. We don't have any sponsors or anything like that. No producers. It's just the three of us.
We make money, just not make money. We don't make money doing this. Let's not be those douches that have a donate button. Let's not do that.
Hey, if the fans demand it.
Yeah. Silence.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
But and I promise you guys, maybe not next week, but in the near future, you'll hear our thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We've talked about that game quite a bit on this podcast. Sequel just came out this past week.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't played it because we wanted to get a camera there so we could catch those natural. I've stayed away from videos. I've stayed away from Let's Plays.
I know nothing about it.
I'm the only one that's watched a playthrough. I've watched a playthrough of Night 1. That's it. And as you might recall, I don't know about you listeners because I can't remember how much we went into it on the podcast. But I didn't react too much to Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, the jump scares got me because they're fucking jump scares. They get everyone.
You don't have to explain it, Chris. You don't have to defend yourself, Chris.
This is a safe place.
Yeah.
But no, like
no judgment.
But
we all know how I play.
We've all seen the videos. But I did start getting creeped out watching Merkabler, or however the hell you pronounce it.
Markiplier?
Sure, why not? When he says it, it's like, Merkabler.
Just jumbles his words.
Yeah.
His own name.
Yeah, right. But like watching him play the first night was creepy enough, so yes.
So it's scarier.
Yeah, and we're going to try to Twitch it. Right? We have a Twitch channel. If you go to our blog site.
We don't stream often, but when we do, we'll let you guys know.
And we don't stream often, but when we do, we stream the best.
You wanted the best.
You got the best.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
Adios.